As Americans decide the future of Congress and state legislatures, Bloomberg will be live in Washington, D.C. to cover the results as they break and provide insight about what it means for the country.
We're in a divided country, and these are really close elections.
We take a look at what the races could mean for Wall Street.
Special election night coverage starts at 8 p.m. on Bloomberg Television and Radio. And tune into Surveillance live from D.C. at 6 a.m. on Wednesday for the latest overnight. This is Bloomberg.
The following is a paid program. The opinions and views expressed do not reflect those of Bloomberg LP, its affiliates, or its employees.
Hello, I'm John Cunningham, and welcome to another episode of the Red Chip Money Report. For those of you new to the show, Red Chip is an investor relations, media, and research firm focused on emerging growth companies. Our unique platform combines global multimedia with traditional investor relations, reaching investors around the world. Now, today's show features interviews with executives of two public companies. First up is Namara Medical, stock symbol NMRD on the NASDAQ. Namara's recently launched SugarBeat, a non-invasive continuous glucose monitoring solution for diabetics and pre-diabetics. Sales are expected to accelerate in the quarters ahead, and Namara is already working on applying its technology with new opportunities. Learn more in the show when we speak with the CEO, Dr. Faz Chowdhury. Next up is WEN Group, stock symbol WHEN on the OTC. WEN Group is rolling out a comprehensive suite of value-added telecom and cybersecurity services for B2B and B2C customers. This is addressing more than a $300 billion market opportunity. WEN Group's management believes successfully executing on its strategy can generate several $100 million in annual revenues with greater than 25% margins at scale. We'll learn more when we speak with the company's senior leadership later in the show. Now, before we get to the first interview, our quote of the week. It comes from the book Small Stocks, Big Money. You can be happy with the companies you own, but you may not be happy with their stock performance. If you know what you're investing in and you're patient, you'll have a day when the market recognizes the value, but that may not be today or tomorrow. This quote comes from Byron Roth, CEO of Roth Capital, featured in Chapter 7 of Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book of exclusive interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Get a digital copy on Amazon today for just $18. Now let's move on to our next interview today with Namara Medical.
Faz, welcome back.
My pleasure, and thank you for inviting me back.
Faz, Namara is focused on developing affordable diagnostic solutions and digital tools for a wide range of medical conditions. You're currently in the commercialization phase for a daily wearable continuous glucose sensor for people with diabetes. Let's talk more about this product and where you are in the commercialization phase.
Absolutely. So over the last almost a decade now, although it seems like a lifetime, we've been developing one platform technology which has the ability to measure various analytes. Now, despite that, we've focused entirely on glucose monitoring. The reason being that with glucose monitoring, not only do you have a vast market within the diabetes space, condition which unfortunately afflicts almost 500 million people around the world. In the US, you have around 35 million people with diabetes. So it's not just in that space, but also when you look outside of that space, in the consumer space of pre-diabetes. If I take the US as an example again, you have almost 90 million people with diabetes in the US, with pre-diabetes in the US. And so that's why we selected glucose as the first analyte that we're going to be measuring. And so if I just give an example, so the product that we've developed is essentially a transmitter like so, which sits on the surface of the arm. And initially you take a daily disposable sensor and it is connected into the device like so, click it in, peel off the backing layer, and you apply it to the arm. And then and so although I don't have diabetes, fortunately, here's, for example, I can show you, I'm wearing the device today, and here's my reading. I've just had a hot chocolate, which I don't normally have, and it shows that my sugar level is going up. And so the question is, okay, so we have a continuous glucose monitor. That's our first product that we've developed, and we have CE approval as a Class 2B medical device in Europe to be able to sell this. The question is, therefore, what exactly is the purpose that this serves, or what is the problem that it addresses? The key to managing diabetes, whether it's type 1, type 2, is to know what your profile looks like over the course of the day. That's really the key, and that's what empowers people to make the appropriate either lifestyle adjustments or medication intervention or other intervention to be able to bring those fluctuations under control. Because ultimately, it's the fluctuations, the degree of fluctuations that occur over the course of the day that actually lead to the long-term complications that we see, or it worsens those. So therefore, what we are doing here is providing an empowering tool to individuals to be able to go out there and monitor their sugar profiles over the course of the day. And more importantly, from the point of view of either, let's say, tracking pre-diabetes or managing type 2 diabetes in particular, given these are lifestyle-based, it is not critical for you to have a sensor on the arm every single day of the week. A bit like if you were to, let's say, if you're looking to lose weight and you go on a diet, you have a choice. You could go out there and you could actually log your weight twice a day for the next 90 days. Or you could just weigh yourself at the end of every month and you could see what progress you've made. Well, similarly here, what's been established in independent literature is that by monitoring just a couple of days at the end of the month, and then making the appropriate interventions over the course of the next month, and then again adjusting according to the profiles at the end of the month, clinically significant improvements have occurred in the way people manage their diabetes. So that's the space we operate in. And from a commercialization perspective, we're still in the process for helping our UK licensee launch the product in the UK market, which they're doing as part of a subscription service. And as it stands, we could launch the product in any European territory. So it's worth bearing that in mind. We could also launch in the Middle East, and there are certain other territories around the world where we can actually launch product. We haven't done so yet. From our perspective, there are two things we are trying to achieve prior to doing that. One is to ensure that we have helped our UK licensee establish their presence in the UK and get many testimonials, etc., that we can, showing the benefits that people are deriving from using the system.
Sounds extremely promising, Foz. What other products do you have in the development pipeline?
One of the things we have been focusing on is, well, how can we make our glucose monitor more affordable than it already is, but also something that is perhaps a lot easier to use. Like, for example, is there a possibility that we could somehow integrate it with a smartwatch, for example? And so those kind of things that we have been exploring in the background, so that instead of suddenly being available to, let's say, 30 million people with type 2 diabetes, could it suddenly be available to everybody who has a smartwatch, for example? So these are the kind of things that we've been looking at. But in any case, to answer your question in terms of additional analyze, let's say that we're going to measure, there are two key analyses that we have been focusing on, and one that we have already developed the sensors for that I've mentioned in the past. And so for lactate monitoring, and this is in particular initially is in the non-clinical application, is for the purpose of endurance monitoring, athletic performance monitoring. But as we know, once one person has a Fitbit, everybody wants one, and it'll be similar, I guess, here where you can measure your, endurance training and your performance capabilities. Then again, it's something that most people will potentially want to use. And so we're focusing on the lactate sensor. And the other one, I guess the third one in line, I would say, is the one for cortisol monitoring. And again, it's a stress biomarker. So that's something, though, later in the pipeline. So those are the key areas that we are currently aiming to focus on.
Foz, let us turn now to your business model. How does Namara Medical make money?
There are currently 3 strands. So one is where we have the licensee in the UK, and we have licensees in the Middle East as well, and they're in the process of registering product. And that model is very simple. It's a supplier-based agreement. There's a certain price that we charge for a box of 4 sensors. And of course, we are then not responsible for any of the marketing and sales or anything of that nature, so it keeps our overheads down. The second strand, which is really interesting and we think is one of the more lucrative opportunities from our perspective, and that is to tie up with companies that are supplying drugs into the market, prescription drugs that are used for the management of diabetes. The idea there being to allow those drug manufacturers to differentiate themselves by saying, well, yes, you've had the drug, but here you go. Here's a sensor, measure how well the drug is actually, how much the drug is actually helping you. And the advantage there is that now what they have is a means of checking the extent to which that medicine is actually helping them. And on that point, we will be talking about this in future in terms of some of the activities that we're doing along those lines, because we do have a license agreement with our UK licensee to roll out one of the drugs that is prescribed widely to people with type 2 diabetes. And to give you an idea, there are around just over 2 million people in Germany and the UK combined that are prescribed this drug every month. Now, our licensee would expect to be able to differentiate with our sensors and get quite a significant chunk of that market. But let's assume for now they took 10% of that market. Well, that equates to us to 200,000 devices and around almost 1 million sensors a month. And that in itself could be anywhere between $25 to $35 million of revenue. So you quickly see how through that method where there's no hard sell because the drug is already reimbursed and the sensors are free of charge in combination with the drug. And therefore, from our perspective, again, the overheads are low because we don't have marketing sales costs associated with that because we simply supply in, again, on a supply price basis, and then they would provide it with those medicines. So those are the two key avenues to commercialization that we are looking at right now. And of course, the third is one that we are looking at as a company, which will require overheads in marketing and sales, and that's a direct-to-consumer based on a subscription model. But that's something I won't discuss today because I will leave that for another day.
In closing, Foz, what is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Namara Medical right now?
Good question again. And I guess to finish off, so bear in mind that we have the only non-invasive glucose technology that's approved anywhere in the world on a continuous CGM, that is, that we're aware of. And it's approved here in Europe. And of course, as I mentioned, it's pending FDA review. So that's generally not enough. So what? There are companies out there that have had approvals and then they sat on their technology forever. The point here is that the technology we've developed has a real tangible value, not only in the field of managing type 2 diabetes. It could be a paradigm shift. It could be in terms of how type 2 is managed, but also in the space of prediabetes, where most people who have prediabetes have not got a clue that they have prediabetes. And I'll give you an example. Within the company, because our colleagues wear these devices, every now and again, we wear them and trial them. And we've had no less than like 2 out of 8 people at one point where the spikes were not what they should have been, and they both came out pre-diabetic. Okay, and this is from one day sensor wear. So the point being that you can't, with existing technologies, you simply can't do that. And here is something that is quite empowering in that regard. So the point now is that we're at that point where we are no longer doing R&D, we're commercializing. So we've reached that inflection point. From our point of view, it's a question of how quickly can we scale the commercial operations? And from the point of view of global reach, even what we have to bear in mind is one of the questions I, again, get asked is, well, where are we with the FDA and US? Well, let's look at it this way. We have a CE mark device, meaning that we can market the product to 60% of the world. So let's not forget that. And, there's a lot to focus on just there. And therefore, that is where we are going to focus on whilst we in parallel work with the FDA.
It's a great story, Foz. Thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Now, to get more information on Namara Medical, visit nmrdinfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free. You can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-REDCHIP to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. We also have a free weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at redchip.com, featuring emerging growth companies like Namara Medical. Again, visit Redshift.com and subscribe today. In addition to our newsletter, you can also order your copy of Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book written by Redshift's CEO, featuring interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Order your copy at Amazon.com today for just $18. Now let's move on to our next interview today with Wen Group.
We're here with Tom Tromer, the head of the European division of Wen Group. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You are quite welcome. Wen Group completed its transformative acquisition of Cross Mobile in June 2022. Tom, what can you tell us about the acquisition and what does it mean for Wen Group moving forward?
First of all, we have some very prudent investors in the Wen Group. But there is no doubt that when they see a good deal, then they go for it. And they go 100%. In this case, from a long-term perspective, they succeeded to enter the European Union, being one of the most financially stable places to conduct business right now. Secondly, within this safe region, to enter the fast-growing telecom sector, which in Europe is expected to have a CAGR above 6%. This is good. And from a short and medium-term perspective, they, for a fair price, succeeded to take over 26% of a very promising telecom startup that, at that time, already had a perpetual telecom license. With this license, we can, A, initiate the first out of our 3 steps, where we will base our business on all the standard telecom services available on the market. Secondly, proceed to step 2, where we will use our telecom platform to cross-sell value-added services sold with a gross margin above 40%. Yes, above 40%.
All right then, Tom, could you tell us about the market opportunity? How big is it?
Our license is issued in the Republic of Poland that has a population of 38 million people, and last year, 55 million registered SIM cards. Poland is our springboard to the market of European Union. Within the European Union, we have close to 450 million people. So just for comparison, in the US, you have a total population of 332 million people. So this European market opportunity is really big. And as I said earlier, the timing is absolutely right.
Tom, Wen Group's advanced cybersecurity solutions provide a unique competitive advantage. Tell us more about these solutions and how they set you apart from the competition.
Yeah, good question. For many years, cybersecurity was reserved for the national agencies, the big international corporations, and of course, the critical infrastructure. In general, it was top secret, it was very exclusive and reserved for the few. And that's understandable. But I believe that we were actually the first company to see that the target of all sort of hackers and online criminals changed towards a guerrilla strategy where the main target was the poorly prepared small and medium-sized businesses and private individuals. So, therefore, we at Wen take a pride in protecting small and medium-sized business from intruders stealing their business secrets, their dreams, their hopes, their future. And we serve private individuals so they, now I'm just giving some examples, can take care of the kids when these are playing in the online amusement park, take care of their parents being fragile targets when doing financial transactions, or they can take care of themselves when they download all kinds of fake apps that take controls over their homes and businesses. This is what we do. So a part of our mission to bring shareholder exceptional value, our other differentiator is that we have a mission to serve, to protect, and care for our customers. And then the beauty of this is that these two aspects, they go very nice hand in hand.
Let's talk about your business model, Tom. How do you generate revenue?
So let me say that first of all, for me, generating revenues or increased top line is mostly relevant if you at the same time talk about growth and bottom line. So let me start with the growth in top line. That is your question. Our strategy is to combine the telecom and cyber care solution on one virtual business platform. It is very important that everybody understands that we are not going to be another old-style telecom operator who every month come up with an old product in a new package for a lower price. Where you will see us every month is when we will have new added value services. What does that mean? Added value services in our world, that's, for instance, employee survey with soft data analysis, customer interaction profiling, emotional intelligence navigator, how to outsmart the digital intruder, how to protect your business ideas, your dreams in the world of e-commerce. People, they should be awarded for taking care of themselves, their home, their business and environment. That is what we want to help them to do. And remember that all of these services, they are developed in-house at the WEN Group, and therefore the average gross margin is substantially above 40%. Let me now go to the bottom line growth. Again, we are right now implementing CRM systems, billing systems, and other sales and customer care systems. All of these systems, they will be based on in-house artificial intelligence to keep operating costs substantially below market. I have promised the investors, our aim is that a growth in revenue of 100% will only mean an increase of employee-related costs of 15%. 100% growth in top line and only 15% on bottom line. So the outlook for investors is positive.
Sounds extremely compelling, Tom. Let's summarize with the essential value proposition. Why should investors take an interest in WEN Group right now?
I hope I already made it clear that shareholder value is our core focus. Secondly, to serve, protect, and care is our commitment to social responsibility. We don't forget that. And as number three, that innovation is in our highly profitable value-added services. That is the core of our daily life. That is what I think about every morning I get up. But what I have not mentioned yet, that is our strong execution. As a team, we promised our potential investor at that time to obtain a very wide telecom license. And we did it within the agreed time. As a team, we promised our investor to sign a contract with one of the leading telecom operators and to use their infrastructure such as the antennas. And we did it within the agreed time. We promised our investors to be in there nationwide in Poland with large gigabyte data packages in October 2022. And we did it. Yes, yesterday we went live with the first data transmission mounted in remote devices across Poland. We did it. So we have a strong tradition of, a good tradition of strong execution. And with this answer, I hope it is clear why investors should take an interest in WEN Group today.
Now, to get more information on WEN Group, visit wengroupinfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free. You can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RED-CHIP to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. We also have a free weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at redchip.com featuring emerging growth companies like WEN Group. Again, visit redchip.com and subscribe today. In addition to our newsletter, you can also order your copy of Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book written by RedChip's CEO, featuring interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Order your copy at Amazon.com today for just $18. Now let's recap the companies you met today. First, you met Namara Medical, stock symbol NMRD on the NASDAQ. Namara sits at the intersection of the global type 2 diabetes market that is expected to reach nearly $59 billion by 2025, and the $50 billion pre-diabetic market, and the wearable health tech sector for weight loss and wellness applications that is estimated to reach $60 billion by 2023. With innovative technology to address these massive market opportunities, Namara is well positioned for accelerated growth in the quarters ahead. Again, visit nmrdinfo.com to learn more. Then you met WEN Group, stock symbol WHEN on the OTC. WEN Group is establishing a formidable foundation from which it can generate long-term growth as it begins rolling out its comprehensive suite of value-added telecom services and cybersecurity solutions for B2B and B2C customers. Unlike large legacy operators, WEN Group has the agility to quickly capitalize on new opportunities and address changing market demands, providing a distinct competitive advantage. Combining this advantage with the company's unparalleled cybersecurity solutions and other next-generation value-added services place it in a great position to rapidly scale operations. Learn more at wengroupinfo.com. Again, if you have any questions about any of the public companies featured on today's show, please call us at 1-800-RED-CHIP or email us at info@redchip.com. In closing, remember, while small caps can provide significant gains, you must be prepared for the downside. Small cap stocks are among the most volatile asset class. Some of the companies featured on this show are Red Chip client companies, and we may own stock in these companies, so please always read our disclosures at redchip.com. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next week with some new exciting emerging growth companies.
The proceeding was a paid program. The opinions and views expressed do not reflect those of Bloomberg LP, its affiliates, or its employees.